Now, the media got very excited by a new toy today, and it was this.
Disposable vapes are set to be banned in a new attempt to stop young people becoming addicted to nicotine.
The Albanese government will spend up to $250 million in next week's budget in an effort to stamp out recreational vaping.
In one of the biggest health reforms in a decade, the federal government will ban recreational vaping.
First to our top story, the radical plan to change Australian vaping laws in a world first that could see most e-cigarettes banned.
Recreational vaping will be banned in a huge crackdown to stop e-cigarettes from ending up in the hands of Australian school children.
I always love when the auto cue doesn't work at Channel 10. I don't use one during this program, by the way. You may have noticed. Well, yes, they're coming for your vapes. Certainly younger people believe that this is the way to get your rocks off as opposed to good old-fashioned traditional smoking. The reality is that all of it's bad for your health, and all of it, of course, is something that you shouldn't do. But all of this is a, dare I say, smokescreen from the actual announcement today. Now, think about the number that you heard, $250 million to go after vaping. What they actually announced today was a $3.3 billion increase to tobacco taxes.
Today, I announced that tax on tobacco will be increased by 5% per year over the next 3 years, starting on September 1st, because we know that a higher priced cigarette is a more unattractive cigarette. We will also align the tax treatment of tobacco products so that products like roll your own tobacco and manufactured sticks are taxed equally.
Well, you know what I'm talking about because I had the glasses on. I'm very serious about this. Now, vice taxes are ones that are completely voluntary. If you choose to smoke, you will pay the tax. If you choose to do the thing that the government disagrees with, well, then you pay the tax. But forgive me if I'm slightly sceptical that all of this is about health. You see, the reality is that the single biggest addict to tobacco in Australia is the federal government. Now, while the spin says that an increase on tobacco taxes will somehow stop vaping, please help me work that out, they're not the same thing. Do you know how much money the government makes out of tobacco taxes? I'll give you a tip before we show you. They make $6 billion out of petrol. $6 billion out of petrol. How much do you reckon they make out of tobacco? Well, the answer is double. Now, again, it's a voluntary tax, but currently the single biggest addict that if they had to quit tobacco would be shaking for a lifetime is the federal government, $12.4 billion. If this thing goes through, which it will, of course, it's an extra $3.3 billion over the next couple of years. What does that mean? They will raise $13.5 billion every single year out of tobacco. And again, many of the people who still smoke in this country, and there's about 10% of them, well, many of them are the people who obviously shouldn't for their health, but certainly shouldn't for their bank balance, as Matt Canavan observed today.
It's just a tax on the poor. I mean, the people who are left smoking are generally poorer people. And I just noticed, I don't smoke, but I noticed the other day it's $50 for 25 smokes. I don't know, how much more expensive do you want to make it? I mean, it's $2 a fag.
Now, if the federal government had its way, you don't tax lead paint, you ban lead paint. But of course, they've found a way here that essentially they hope that there's one billionaire that'll be willing to pay $13 billion for one carton of cigarettes once a year. Because the reality is, their assumption is the more it costs, the fewer people will smoke, and there's not evidence that automatically proves that is exactly what has happened. There was in the early price rises, but then it has slowed over the past few years. $50 a packet. So while all of this is happening, while we are trying to ban smoking, ban vaping, there is a move on that also has to do with smoking that literally gets people elected to Parliament. There is a move on right now to legalise cannabis. There are 4 members of state parliaments around the country who were elected to legalise cannabis. This is at the same time when tobacco taxes through the roof. Guess what? It's just as bad for you for the most obvious of reasons. It ain't natural what you're inhaling. But 4 people are in the parliament, and in New South Wales and Victoria, they are in balance of power, which means they'll agree with everything the government does, but you, as my prediction is, will end up legalising this in the next few years. And the Greens, who of course will say nothing about the rise on tobacco taxes, say that if we legalised and taxed cannabis, it'd make $28 billion. So again, what are we trying to do here? Are we trying to ban something because it's bad or legalise it because lots of people do it and there's lots of money in it? Let's run with the theory that we don't ban it like lead paint, we tax it, and it's a voluntary tax because if you choose to smoke, your mistake, my mistake, you will end up paying for it. So let's be consistent. Why not do the same when it comes to cannabis? And why not do the same when it comes to vaping? The idiocy of pretending that in a country where illicit drugs are still, last time I checked, illegal, and the government raises no tax, there seems to be an awful lot of illicit drug use in Australia. I don't believe that we should be legalising ice anytime soon. But we've got a long history in this country of working out how to make billions of dollars out of something that someone lights up. Whether they roll their own, they buy it by the packet, they buy it by the dozen, or, as it is now, they buy it as a disposable or it's rechargeable. And again, forgive me if I'm slightly confused here, where the attitude towards drugs in Australia, which are illegal, is that it will no longer be a crime to possess them in some parts of the country, like Queensland. In Canberra, completely cool with marijuana. At the federal level, let's make billions of dollars off tobacco, but vaping's the real problem. I repeat, all of this is terrible for you. But which rule is it? Are we banning it or are we making billions off it?